Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living with Dementia. We're proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. Some of our programs are recorded, and some are made available for viewing through our YouTube channel for future use. To find us on YouTube, type in Dementia Friendly Fort Worth. Click on our logo, which is a longhorn with a blue background, and then choose the word videos. You will find lots of good, interesting former programs there. I am Martha Brown, your host for today's activities. Today we have with us Miss Peggy Spier. She's bringing us art from the Amon Carter Museum's collection, and we're going to talk about food. Peggy, with Thanksgiving coming up, I just can't wait to see what's going on, and I'm turning it over to you.
Great, thank you. Okay. This was one of those things where I just picked some artwork, and then there ended up being so much about it that, hold up. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
We haven't seen this one, I don't believe.
Oh,
No.
Okay.
No.
So this is a tiny little painting. It's about 12 by 11 inches. It's not big at all. Entitled Free Sample Try One. What do we see?
Almonds.
Almonds. Yes, very good, Yetta.
Wow.
We see almonds. What else do we see?
a
That's
broken.
actually like a recessed part, but a broken piece of glass there, so you could reach in and get one almond.
Yeah.
Yes. So we've got like a little niche with broken glass on it. Can't really see here the card, what it says, but it says free sample, try one.
Oh yeah, I see now. Free.
You can kind of see the free and then try.
Mhm.
Okay. And then what do we see here?
It looks like a
wooden-
fence. Is it a fence?
No, it's just wood. It's
Okay.
not
Wood.
meant to be-
It looks like it might have been, it's supposed to be a dispenser for nuts, but they had to make a crude way to dispense nuts themselves.
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
the way that you phrase that, Tom, talking about my son.
That's okay.
God.
It looks like a free picture frame.
It's meant, okay, so this style of painting, we talked about this before, where it's meant to be very realistic, is called, does anyone remember a fancy French word? Trompe-l'oeil.
Trompe-l'oeil?
Trompe-l'oeil, yep, Martha said it, trompe-l'oeil.
Ooh.
What's that? Spell that, please.
Okay, let me, of all my years of art history, I still have to make sure I'm spelling it correctly. Trump. Second word is L'Oeil, I think. I'm still looking for it.
That sounds about right.
Yeah,
And Google will correct you.
yeah. Google will keep me honest. So give it a Google. That's close. Those are all the right letters. I'm not sure if they're in the right order. How about that? But the style is called trompe-l'oeil. And so this artist, D. Scott Evans, who's had many names and then changed his name to D. Scott Evans, signs his name on the bottom, SF David, because there's some speculation that he didn't want to be linked directly to trompe-l'oeil because it wasn't always in fashion to be painting trompe-l'oeil, so he would use pseudonyms. And he was initially David Scott Evans. That's what he was born as. And then he would sign things as SS David or DS Evans. He would change it all up, and then he finally landed on D. Scott Evans. So here you can see this is supposed to be his signature, but he's using a pseudonym. But he was painting in this style where it was meant to look very real. So it was meant, initially he painted several of these, and they weren't supposed to be framed. They were supposed to be hung on the wall and look, like Don said, like a nut dispenser. But he's painting in this very realistic fashion, but he's painting something that a nut dispenser has never looked like this that historians have been able to find. This is not what a nut dispenser of the day would have looked like. So it's a fictional take, or a realistic take on something fictional, which is kind of a mind bend, okay? So we've got now this, we're in his world, we're using this nut dispenser. He invites us, free, try one. But you guys have pointed out that glass. And it's broken.
Today OSHA would not even consider this being proper, you know.
That's right, that's right.
No,
You'd
so
have- You'd have to wear steel mesh gloves to get your nuts
Right.
out of there.
exactly. So again, there's this funny juxtaposition of, oh, there's this kindness of they're saying this is free, take some, but at the risk of hurting your own hand.
Yeah.
You know, some art historians speculate that this was a viewer who was annoyed and broke the glass because the glass was a whole sheet and you couldn't get through it and was so annoyed, just smashed the glass out of frustration. There's that speculation. There's
Okay.
this juxtaposition of what kind of stuff do you typically put behind glass?
Things that you don't want people to touch.
That's what they.
Things you don't want people to touch, things that are generally valuable,
Yeah.
Yes.
that are important. And here we've got glass protecting nuts, which every nut theoretically tastes the same.
Yep.
The nuts all kind of look similar to it. I mean, he often did peanuts, which is even more of a commentary on, you know, peanuts are peanuts. They're cheap. They're all the same. So again, kind of elevating this idea of the nut to something that doesn't typically have an elevated.
Yeah.
I think,
Go ahead.
I
Bill.
think that this should have been titled "Break in Case of Emergency" for almonds. And so somebody had an emergency and they had to get to the almonds.
When you're
Wow.
hangry, there's like a little hammer you hit.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Steve?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
No, it's So almonds, where you see almonds here, there are not as many of the almond versions. Some museums have almond versions and it's called another variety. Try one. They're typically peanuts. He was really good at drawing and painting peanuts, but he was really good at drawing this end block wood. I mean, this is kind of a grainy picture, so it's not the best, but he did a really good job of adding the character to the wood grain. You can see some wood might have splintered up here, down here.
That was the first
So-
thing that jumped out at me was the detail.
Yeah.
It almost looks like a cigar box.
Oh,
the
kind of.
kind
Yeah,
of
you're right.
flints you
Yeah.
put.
So this is a complete oil canvas
Mhm.
painting.
Yeah.
How big did you say it was, Peggy?
12 by 10.
12 by 10. Okay.
And that is very detailed
Portrait.
to me, because of me, it looks real.
Yeah, and that was his goal.
Glass looks
Yeah.
real.
Mhm.
You know,
So go ahead, Steve.
No, I don't know how he did the glass on an oil canvas.
Just that good.
Yeah, it is. It's just
He was,
unbelievable.
yeah, he was really good at painting. He often did like a lot of genre scenes. He did do a niche. For a while, he was really interested in this. If you give it a Google, so many collections across the country have these versions of his nuts behind glass. He was really good at it.
Yeah.
It almost looks like a photograph.
Well,
Yeah, it does.
That's what I was going to mention, that I looked up the Trump Lloyd
Mhm.
word, and it's basically an illusion of a three-dimensional object on two-dimensional paper.
Yeah.
Very realistically done.
Mhm.
He
Yeah,
probably
that's
put a clear lacquer over to make the glass part.
No, there is not any lacquer on this artwork.
Well, but he had to do something
He's just using oil.
He's just using
Yeah,
oil
but-
paint, yeah.
Okay, my brain is, I'm trying to visualize how he got the glass look. Anyway, never mind.
I mean, he
Okay.
would have been using the same colors, but as if they
Yes.
were through,
That's right.
come in a way that would be as if it were glass.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. I was just trying to,
And you know for sure that it's not real glass that he has put on with small nails on it.
For sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I've, in doing acrylic painting, I've tried to play with glass objects. And exactly what Peggy said is that they use the same colors, only they draw a line around it and give it some stuff that gives it look like a reflection, some paint that makes it look like a reflection on it.
yeah.
It is all oil paint. Yep.
But that's kind of what I was getting at. It's, I don't know. Anyway. Go
Yeah,
on.
here it's
Go
all oil paint, and he's just very masterfully used oil paint. We're not
Mhm.
using any lacquer or any sort of 3D objects on top of the canvas itself,
Okay.
which is part, so yeah, Trump Loy translates in English to fool the eye. So that
Yeah. Fool the eye. Yes.
we're all fooled, But yeah, they're just kind of fun paintings. It was something he was interested in and did many of these. So you might see them in other American art collections across the country.
Okay.
Well, clearly, if it stumps Steve, it does fool the eye.
It
Well,
does-
Fool the eye, it does. Yes.
Don, you know more about acrylics and paints than, but it could be almost like a very, very, very watered down white.
It could be, but
that's
basically,
just-
I think you're on the right track.
Has that little sheen into it, just like glass, but it's still
Yeah.
oil.
Right. I think you're on the right track, Steve, but
Yeah,
it's not the
okay.
glass that they're painting. It's the background that makes it, it's been washed
Right.
out a little bit, so like it's looking at it through glass. And you see where it's cracked, it's much more defined, so it's not,
Right.
the glass is
And
not.
that's what I was kind of thinking about when I said lacquer. My brain was still thinking of woodworking. Sorry.
That's all. Okay, so we will, if you have a nut allergy, then that's okay. We're going to the next one.
Oh, yes. Man
Okay.
Ray.
Man Ray. Have any of you heard of this photographer before, Man Ray?
I've heard of him, but I don't know anything about him.
Okay. He's kind of a kooky guy. He's an American. He was born in Philadelphia. Was an expat in Paris for, I think, in the 30s and the 40s. Eventually came back to the United States.
And it goes.
This is like one of these artists that you could just get like into such a wormhole with like reading about him. He was very, very, very influential in the photography realm of the world, in the surrealist realm. We've talked about the surrealist movement before. He was in Paris working with the surrealist artists. That the surrealist artists were really focusing on kind of the unconscious. There's several tracks within that where women were portrayed a certain way, certain objects were portrayed a certain way. It was a manipulation of materials that were not the intent of the materials. It was a very experimental type of movement. It's like one of my favorite artist movements. If you just Google surrealism, you'll very cool artwork. Anyway, he was a photographer, and he invented the rayogram or the rayograph, where he would go in a dark room and he would lay something like a thumbtack or in this case, a coil on photo sensitive paper, and then expose it to light. And then the photograph, if he's not using a camera, the photograph would be the shadow of whatever he put on the
Mhm.
photographic paper. He invented this. So this like totally avant-garde, people were amazed at this creative thinking of a familiar tool, and he took it and ran. So here, this artwork is entitled, this photograph is entitled Cuisine, and it was taken or was put in a portfolio that was commissioned by an electric company in Paris to help promote the use of electricity at home for domestic need.
Yeah, that's,
So that actually, that coil thing actually could be an electrical cord that's powering it looks like a goose.
Exactly. Yeah, one thing I saw a quail, and one thing I saw a small chicken.
Mhm.
There's speculation if he even took the picture of the food itself, or if he appropriated it from something else.
Oh,
Wow.
But he definitely inserted the coil. And so that was what he was trying to show was electricity is an invisible thing. How do you portray an invisible thing?
yeah.
So he was making these photographs out of things like light bulbs. He would do, a photogram of a rayogram of a light bulb or a lampshade or an electrical cord or coil. So he was using these the physical markers to then overlay or insert with things that could benefit from the use of electricity. And so here, this meal was meant to indicate you can use electricity to create a very delicious home cooked meal.
well, the coils, I say, those were the original coils I used on stoves.
That's probably right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And heating those hot plates and things like that.
That's what
So
it
it's
looks like to
basically-
me.
Okay, you're cooking your food.
That's right.
Very good
Yeah, you're using
observation.
electricity to cook your food. That's right.
Yeah.
Looks like they overcooked that one.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think that's the way that's supposed to look. I think that's
Maybe
it's
it's
a
barbecue.
It's a
Maybe
duck.
put
I think
barbecue on
it's
it,
a duck.
yeah.
It's too small to be a goose.
okay. So it's a duck. I've had both both duck and goose at very minimal times, and they always look like that. A very dark glaze
Mm.
on them.
Yeah, you can like almost feel that crisp just looking
Yes.
at it.
Yes.
You can just taste it.
With the rice.
So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. Yes.
Yeah, but so
To me-
this is one of the in the 10 photographs that were created for this series. There's a speculation on a couple of them, this being one of them, of whether he actually took the underlying photograph or if he pulled it from somewhere. He did include photographs of, and this is like such a surrealist tangent, I won't even get in on, a lot of naked women, but from the head down and the waist up. There's like this whole
Okay.
thought on women being headless, that women are just bodies, they're not vessels for intelligent thinking. Part of this like whole surrealist thing. So Man Ray really subscribed to that. It's either a woman with 100 heads or a woman with no heads. That's how women are often displayed in the surrealist movement. But interestingly enough, and this is one of those things, if you start going down the Man Ray rabbit hole, some people link him as the inspiration for the Black Dahlia murder in LA. Like, because of some of his photographs, there were things that were consistent within the murder that match some of the things that appear in his artwork, his photographs. So again, not much respect for women, but that's a totally tangential thing. But somehow they appear in this electric series.
Is
And,
that popcorn? Oh, sorry. Is that
Say that again?
popcorn? Is it popcorn it's lying on?
It
Right.
looks like rice.
I think it's rice.
Right.
Yeah. Rice?
Yeah.
Rice.
Oh, now I see it when
Yeah.
you make it bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
Cooked his
He
goose.
interestingly did a thing for Vogue in the 60s. Yeah. Did someone say something?
Hans sneezed.
Yeah.
Bless
He did
you.
a thing in the 60s where he had recipes that he kind of created in his mind. Part of the surrealist, again, things that don't match, things that don't make sense. And so you can Google that and you can find his recipes that are in vogue, that this recipe was not there. So I don't think, this is again supporting the fact that he might not have taken this picture, but you can find some kind of crazy concoction recipes that he came up with.
I guess they didn't. I guess they didn't really recognize copyrights on the things in the 30s.
No, and probably with like an advertisement, there is not much
That's true.
intellectual property associated with it. I don't know. But anyway, so 500 of these, the whole portfolio was called electricity. There were 500 of these portfolios made, and they were gifted to the high executives at the electric company, and then some of their best supporters, users of their electricity. So, but this series of 10 photographs was very critically acclaimed and part of some of his most innovative work that he created.
He had to have some smarts about him to do this.
Oh yeah, he was very intelligent. He was a smart man,
Mhm.
very creative artist, and ran in a lot of the circles, avant-garde circles. So was constantly being inspired and inspiring people. All right, totally different vibe. But here we are at a vegetable market in Minnesota. Some call it vegetable market, some call it vegetable stand. This print appears in a lot of museums. This woman was, this artist was commissioned by the WPA Federal Arts Project in Minnesota. And typically her artwork, and their charge for the WPA artist was to capture the portrait of America during American life during the Depression, really, and Dust Bowl and Depression. And so this is uncharacteristically cheerful for her, because of the colors that she's using, brighter colors, and it seems like a bountiful harvest for this particular farmer, which would not have necessarily been the case.
Right.
The farmer has a bunch of clients that are there, perusing the vegetables, which again would probably not have been the case. So it's another, we've seen a lot of WPA Depression era artworks. This is a more cheerful outlook on rural life in America, or this could be urban as well, but
Did you say this was from something about Minnesota?
she was awarded or commissioned the WPA in Minnesota. She's from Wisconsin.
Yes.
So here we see families, we see a group of women. You would not know that this is Depression era if I didn't tell you.
No.
No, there's a lot of vegetables there.
Yeah. But it's the 30s, so it could be in the later part of the 30s.
Yeah.
The clothing says 30s to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All of the women going to buy vegetables in their heels and hats.
Mhm.
Poor
Yeah, we got
lady.
a family over here with a baby.
Yeah.
Does that look like a bunch of bananas hanging in the window there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
It says apples, pears,
Hotel.
yeah, hotel. Yeah, so this is just an American life scene where the market, and even today, the market, think of farmers markets or the grocery store. That's such an important part of American life. So this was something, whether you were in Oklahoma or South Dakota, you would still relate to this type of scene.
No.
All right, we've got one more. There's not much to say about it. I just thought it was a sweet photograph.
I like this one.
So this
I
was
love
taken
it.
around the same time, but it wasn't printed until decades later. But again, this was another FSA or government commissioned project where this photographer was in Kersey, Colorado, which is north of Denver, south of Fort Collins, kind of closer to Kansas.
Okay.
And so there's a series of photographs from this particular farmer and his wife where they're getting hay ready for animals, feeding the horses. And here again, this is just a happy for such a bleak time in the United States. This is a happy picture of their bounty.
That bountiful crop, because look at the size of those tomatoes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh,
Mhm.
Potatoes and the corn and the watermelon. I'm amazing they have watermelon there because watermelon doesn't grow real well in the colder climates.
They
yeah,
can
it's not a big one, but it will do.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
And
one.
they just seem genuinely happy. I mean, the smile on this guy's
Yes.
face does not feel posed or forced. I mean, it's a sense of pride on both of their faces.
Mhm.
His smile was the first thing I saw.
Yeah, he is proud.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they have this picture. This is just so precious. And that
Yeah.
tree behind them is probably 400 years old.
That's
It's
right. That's a huge tree.
huge tree. Yeah.
So
This
I
is
just
beautiful.
thought,
So he's got potatoes and corn, right? So he's got
There's
potatoes
corn.
on one hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corn, tomatoes, potatoes,
Melon.
watermelon.
and they all kind of seem like, corn's not, that looks like dried corn to me. So I'm like,
It does. Yeah, it does look
time
like
of the
dried
year when
corn.
this
Yes.
would have been, or it's October, so I guess it's maybe they're making feed for their animals or something like
Yeah,
that.
or cornmeal or something like that.
Probably more feed corn than.
Yeah.
Or decoration for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
So
Uh-huh.
these are our food photographs, or people and food, or food and people, kind of tangentially related, but
They're cool.
I know we're going to be spending a lot of time in the kitchen over the next week, so thought I was get us ready. And next week we are looking at kitchens. Huh?
These were really good.
Oh,
Thank
good. I'm
you.
glad you like these. It was fun researching
Yes.
some of these.
Mhm.
So next week, if you are around and not out of town for a holiday, we will be looking at kitchens, because like I said, we'll be in the kitchen a lot next week. So
Oh,
Okay. Oh, good.
I
That
hope you all
will
have a
be
good
fun.
week and weekend, and I will see you on Wednesday.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Good.
so much.
Thank you,
Bye,
Peggy.
friends.
Thank you. Oh, isn't that great? Let's take a look at what's coming up, and then we can turn off and turn on our Fifth Street Cafe. 11:30 today, Heather is doing a Where in the World is Heather? She's always traveling somewhere, and who knows where she's been lately. And at 1:30, we're doing Flashback. And as I keep telling Steve, I keep adding pictures. So
Yeah.
some of them nobody has seen before. And if you have any pictures of things from your childhood or things that remind you of something from your childhood, if you want to send them to me, I can add them to this, and we can just keep on making a huge file of flashbacks.
So does it matter if it's our second, third, or fourth childhood?
Doesn't matter to me. I bought a little red wagon when I was 40. I wanted a wagon.
You know, as we grow older, sometimes the things we think we wanted as a child, that's what we want.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
And I know my wife kind of says, what?
Right.
But why not?
Why
That's
not?
like
Exactly
the
right.
train, Steve.
Was that?
That's like the train.
Yeah. It's things like for your childhood, you remember, it's helped part of your memory from your childhood.
I gotta
Yes.
step away for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, and let me
I'm
turn off
gonna
our
leave.
recording. Oh,
I was
Steve, you're leaving us.
oh,
I
bye.
guess so. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Steve.